It's my Feel Good Breakfast Show.
Welcome back to this Tuesday morning. This is your Feel Good Breakfast Show, Expresso, and we're back again with Grant Pereira, Brand Director at Carling Black Label in studio, to share more about the hashtag No Excuse campaign. Now, hashtag No Excuse is a new movement to get champion men involved in tackling gender-based violence, and that's our big focus of today. Take a look at this. Well, before we do that, actually, let's quickly talk to Grant. Earlier on, when we were chatting to you, you were showing us images of a gathering that took place, I believe it was last week. Hundreds of men got together in support of the hashtag No Excuse campaign. So what was the reason for that coming together?
The reason was a symbolic stand against gender-based violence by ordinary men. And that's what we say in this campaign, is that there's a silent majority of men out there who would never abuse alcohol and who would never abuse women. And we want those men around the country to stand up and become champions in their communities against gender-based violence.
Yeah. And I believe also part of the campaign, you had silhouettes or stencils of humans drawn on the ground. What was the nature and the effect that you wanted to have of that?
The effect of that, stenciling these outlines of women who have been killed by their partners. Yeah. 3 women are killed every day in South Africa by their partners. Intimate femicide is one of the worst problems that we can have in a society. And therefore, as a brand, we are asking men in their families, in their communities, to take action. The more they take action, the less of a problem this will be in our world.
Yeah. And so how did it turn out? What happened at the event?
It was very impactful, especially when we got the men to record their 16 seconds of silence and take the pledge against gender-based violence.
Yeah.
You'll find on our website, noexcusesa.com, there is an opportunity for anyone in this country to take a pledge. Take a pledge to be a champion in your community against gender-based violence.
Yeah, so I'm glad you mentioned that, because added onto that is this Champions for Change movement. So tell me about how it is making a difference in society.
Well, as a brand, we believe we've got the reach as a brand to reach millions of people, but that's not going to make as much difference as on-the-ground action.
Okay.
So we've partnered with an NGO called Father a Nation, and Father a Nation believe that if we can heal men, we can heal society. So our Champions for Change program is an on-the-ground activation that we hold in communities, facilitated workshops to give men in those communities the skills to become champions against gender-based violence.
Yeah.
And we want to create in every community around the country over the next 5 years, champions in those communities.
Yeah. Well, let's quickly take a look at highlighting exactly how this Champions for Change campaign is making a difference.
Wonderful to be here in Boipelon to kick off our Champions for Change program. The idea of this initiative is to work deep in communities. So we know that we must start in the place where we're the strongest, and that is taverns.
As a smart drinking squad leader and trainer, I think it's very important that we educate our male friends about women abuse.
As a champion, I pledge to get involved. I pledge not to be a bystander. Because you know the old saying, it says all it takes for evil to prevail is for good men to do nothing. So we're saying good men, stand up, pledge, commit, and let's start a movement of this. The message is masculinity is a gift and it's a responsibility. You can be a gift to society or you can be a nightmare to society. You choose.
I chose to be part of the No Excuse campaign because I felt that it's something that's very close to my heart. Growing up in a community where I witnessed a whole lot of abuse, I actually want to come into society and impart something positive and actually help people get through gender-based violence. So for me, it was more what I've experienced, what I've noticed, and what I think I can do.
We're having about 800 team players right here. We had to go through all the players and take them through a workshop on gender-based violence. And now we have these champions here who wants to champion this cause of gender-based violence.
There is no excuse. There is no excuse. As a man.
People now are seeing a new cause in our country to respond to this crisis and make sure that together we stand together and deal with gender-based violence once and for all.
That's some incredible scenes there. And Grant, I was asking you, You go to, like you say, where you start where you're strongest, on the ground, in taverns, and you're going there to speak to guys that are either intent on drinking, have been drinking, or probably drunk already at the time, and you're trying to deliver this incredibly powerful message. What's the response like?
The response is always overwhelmingly favorable because there is the silent majority of men who want to say no to gender-based violence. They want to know the tools of how to address it in their communities. And I'm always overawed by the passion of men to take action.
Yeah.
And that's what makes this such a rewarding campaign for us, but also to see and mobilize communities, whether it's in taverns, at FET colleges, or during soccer tournaments.
Yeah. You know, when you look at this, it might seem very artistic and provoking in that sense, but when you think about what it actually represents as a statistic, when you look at the fact that 1,095 women are killed every single year at the hands of their partners.
No, it is that.
That is what...
Dreadful, dreadful statistic. But it's something that can be overcome. You know, as long as we take this issue away from being an issue of shame into an issue of action by men and by women, I know that we're going to make a difference.
Yeah.
And I know that this can change.
And this is something that you'll be standing behind very strongly over the next few years?
We are committed to a 5-year program on No Excuse into our second year next year and looking forward to the change we can make on the ground, especially in our Champions for Change program.
Grant, thank you very much for being here and
Thank you.
bringing us this message. And I think it's very clear once again that No Excuse challenges the champions for change and challenges every single one of us as South African men, South African women, South African children, all of us to take responsibility for this, but of course, mostly focus on us, the perpetrators of that violence, those who stand in silence while it happens, to take action. No excuse. It ends now.